Hello, my name's Matt Hawes. I'm the SEO Tech Director at ROAST. Welcome to Back to School with ROAST. Today I'm going to be talking about local SEO. So there's not really been too many developments in the last couple of months in comparison to SERP features on Google Shopping. But however, in my opinion, it's an area of SEO that's overlooked a lot of the time. Getting your business information is critical for customer journeys, especially as we face new restrictions due to COVID-19. It's important to ensure that your business information is up to date. We'll be going through a few reasons why during this presentation. So we'll be covering, for those that may not have had experience with local SEO, we'll be covering the types of results that you can expect to see within this channel. We'll do a brief overview of some of the local SEO ranking factors, the importance of optimizing your information, and new opportunities and tips that have come about that may be able to improve the amount of traffic and you get to your local listings, as well as improving overall the kind of customer experience for anyone visiting your local locations. So for those that haven't had experience with this form of SEO before, local SEO is predominantly based around location search queries. So if you were to type something which contains a modifier such as near me, in, plus a location, Google will understand that this is local search intent. So as a result, they will serve relevant localized results based on your query. So if you're searching for something near me, it will highlight businesses related to your query that are near your location using your device's location settings when you have that enabled for Google to track. Or if you're searching for a location specifically, it will bring up information, data related to that specific location you've searched for. Majority of times within localized results, you will see a map pack as shown here. So this will show you that information of those businesses that are localized to your location or whatever area you're searching. It's a nice way to get ahead of traditional results, as this is just above the fold of like traditional SEO listings that you would usually see on other search terms. It doesn't stop just there with this feature. The traditional SEO results are also affected by these localized search queries. So the results that you'll see will be relevant to that location search. So in this example where I've searched Peter in Holloway Road, all the businesses' locations that have been pulled in Google are for addresses that are located within that area. So there's a lot of ranking factors for optimizing for local SEO. We're not going to go through every single one during this presentation. A lot of these were built up from a local SEO search ranking factor study by Moz a couple of years ago. So they went out and asked local SEO experts what their opinions were on the strongest signals for getting the best out of your local SEO activity. There's a lot that you can do for optimizing your local listings, but predominantly the majority of this is stuff that you can manage directly. A lot of it is based around optimizing the information in your profile. So the Google MyBusiness listings, having the correct keywords, the location settings, opening hours, on-page signals. So for location pages on your site, having that same optimization present there and keeping it consistent, as well as other signals such as reviews. So, how are you interacting with your reviews, and what's the kind of quantity and quality of reviews that you're getting on your profiles. All of this is related to information optimization. A study from Google said that most up-to-date business profiles were 50% more likely to lead to a purchase. Again, like the reason this is true is just because you're not going to go to a location. If you would turn up to a location, the opening hours were incorrect, or if you were to find some information displayed on a profile that didn't match when you came into the store, it's going to be a bit of a frustrated experience. You've made the journey to that location only to find that you've not been able to grab what you needed. And it doesn't just affect purchases in that one time only. It also would potentially affect purchases at a later stage if you wanted to visit that location. So although like a lot of this information you can manage directly, the change in the local landscape with COVID-19 has created a few complexities with this. So for restaurants specifically, there's now additional points of information to add, such as dine-in and takeaway options. So a lot of restaurants, originally before this and a few other features, the options Google gave you were you're closed or you're open. There was no kind of halfway in between. So this kind of this update pretty much gives businesses the chance to highlight that they're not available for dine-in, whether that's COVID-19 or a business decision, but they can also provide takeaway options, so that as a result they won't lose their local listings. And then there's also the temporary closed measure. So a lot of you may have seen this during this year. Effectively, this is a way to again, in some ways keep your business listing active, but then also informing customers that you're not permanently closed, so they might want to visit at another time. So this has created complexities because again, as mentioned earlier, on local SEO is an overlooked channel, and it's just extra information for people to manage. So if it's not done correctly, it can lead to a lot of frustrations with customers, but also affect people as they start to gradually reopen in the future. So to highlight one experience for me, so like most anecdotes, this one started with a pub. So once restrictions started to be eased off a little bit, me and my housemate decided to go out for a drink. Naturally, we went to the closest place to our house, but we found that when on arrival, that this place was temporarily closed. They hadn't updated their Google MyBusiness listing, so we'd made like a small 5-minute journey only to frustratingly find that it was closed. The next point was we decided just to walk further up the road to another pub, but then we found that this place was also closed due to new operational hours. Due to COVID-19, the business has decided to only open between Wednesdays and Saturdays. So they hadn't updated their Google My Business profile to reflect this. So again, another kind of frustrating point in our journey. So we decided to just randomly walk up the road, and we eventually found somewhere that's open. So the trouble with this for the closed listings is we've actually discovered by chance that this third pub we visited was actually much better than the first two. So this pub had better services, better drink selection. It was much more ventilated, so that was great for kind of health and safety reasons at the moment. So now, just by chance, I discovered a business that is, in our opinion, better than the previous two that we would have visited on previous occasions. So as pubs 1 and 2 start to reopen, I'm probably more inclined to want to visit number 3 now, just based on this experience of discovering somewhere better by chance. If I'd known this information about 1 or 2, and I was making if I didn't know this information about 1 and 2, and I was to make an even longer journey, I might be put off wanting to make that longer journey in the future based on this experience. So getting this information is correct, just for ensuring a great experience for all your visitors. Essentially, what we want to avoid is unnecessary journeys. So, and this is another thing I encountered at the beginning of lockdown. So, like most people, I decided to get into a bit of gardening once the restrictions came into force. And naturally, I didn't have any equipment. I'm in a small flat in London, so first thing I did was Google for a local garden centre to see what was open. The closest one that was open to me, it was based in South London, and I'm based in North. So diving into the kind of reviews and profiles, because I was a bit skeptical whether this place was definitely open, I discovered that people were leaving negative reviews because it was in fact closed permanently. So for this business, they don't plan to reopen, but for businesses that do plan to reopen and that have caused all these unnecessary journeys for customers, these customers are going to leave negative reviews. And then off the back of that, that's going to negatively affect their local SEO rankings, because reviews are a big part of how high you can rank within local SEO. So again, another case of if you get this information correct, it can really help in the long term. One other risk is also the Google Local Guides program. So Google you may have seen this through Google Maps or other kind of points where you've used Google, where they prompt you to contribute information about businesses. So you might be prompted, your opinions on the breakfast, the rooms, locations, or do they have like amenities such as like wheelchair accessibility? So this program was designed by Google to feed more into their collection of data about local businesses. Websites, they can crawl this information, but local businesses, that's where kind of search struggles. That's where they need a lot of input from users to get more accurate data than just what a website owner is producing. So the risk this poses for businesses is if, let's say, back to that example with the pub that had multiple different opening hours. Let's say they were temporarily closed 1 minute, then they're open with restricted hours, then they're planning to reopen with new hours, but then this is constantly changing due to like the ways government guidelines are changing with opening hours. If they don't update this information themselves, they're going to have to rely on users to update this information for them. And if they're not clear about what the opening hours are, this is going to be reflected in their Google My Business profile. And again, we're going to see those kind of frustrations with unnecessary customer journeys. So really at the moment with local, it's a good opportunity for some housekeeping. So one study early this summer was from Search Engine Land showed that the average Google My Business profile had 73 reviews, 45 photos, 5 posts and a star rating of about 4 upwards. So now's kind of a good opportunity to kind of like look at your profile and see how you kind of stack against these stats, and then reviewing what more can you do to enhance your profile using this as a kind of baseline to measure against. So with photos, this study was done pre-COVID. It showed that 90% of customers were more likely to visit a business that had photos. So if you think now, a lot of the kind of queries around visiting a local business would be, what restrictions do they have in place? Do they have the correct guidelines, hand sanitizing, social distancing? So now with photos, it could be a good opportunity to kind of demonstrate what kind of measures you're taking against COVID within your Google My Business profile. Again, to kind of like instill more confidence for the customer, for them visiting your location and knowing that you've got all the safety measures in place. It's also a good chance to look at your reviews. So a few studies have shown that a lot of people are kind of are showing a more preference to local at the moment. So American Express released their Shop Small campaign. So that's one example that came out last year, where they reward buyers £10 for up to £10 cash back on some purchases. But then a lot of campaigns are out there to support local businesses as well. So Carlsberg released one about supporting pubs with a real landlord doing an advertisement for them. So whilst you're looking at reviews profiles, and if you're noticing like a higher instance of visitors to your businesses, now's the time to kind of like review how you can encourage reviews to your locations. So whether that's prompts in store or just leaving like a little card at the end of their bills stating to leave their feedback on Google, just reviewing what you can do to boost your reviews further. It's also a good time to learn from your negative reviews. So going through addressing any feedback, it's always best practice to respond to negative reviews. It just shows that you care, and it also just shows to anyone that's browsing for the negative reviews that you've made an effort to address an issue a customer's had. And then it's also a great opportunity in terms of housekeeping for cleaning up irrelevant reviews. So this is one example I pulled out a few months ago for a local Tesco. So the review had stated, great atmosphere, could play some better tunes. It's near a lot of bars in that area, so I don't know if someone had mistakenly left a negative review on the Tesco by mistake. So I guess in this opportunity, you can flag it to Google saying it's inappropriate. They will remove that review because, seeing that it is inappropriate in this case, and then naturally that will lead to a higher weighted average of reviews for your profile. So there's a lot we can learn from from the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. One of these is like how local restaurants and businesses were making the most of local whilst this scheme was running. So one of these, one clever optimization that I saw was some businesses in London had included the term "eat out to help out" within their profile. So only a few businesses in London did this. So as a result, as I'm Googling terms such as "eat out to help out" near me, as there are only like a few people doing it, that means that there's less competition within that local result. So as a result, they're kind of getting ahead of the competition and putting themselves out there more. So this search term had about 2,400 searches a month. So I'm guessing so that will be on a national level. So I'm guessing based on locations, it will probably be, the search volume will vary depending on your location. But it just shows that, yeah, if there was to be another scheme that rolls out in the future and you're showing that local is appearing for a lot of your search terms, it could be a good opportunity to essentially copy this tactic and seeing, you know, what it leads to in terms of more visits, more bookings, and just kind of testing it to see what if it has a positive impact on your business. So it was also a good opportunity for PR for a lot of local businesses. So again, with Eat Out to Help Out, if you were to Google Eat Out to Help Out extended, or you know, in London, you'd see a lot of top tier publications publishing a list of locations that are that are part of the scheme. They're even continuing now as people are remaining extended in the scheme. So a simple Google search and then reaching out to the editors and authors of all these posts and then asking if they can include your business could be a nice PR win for your business. One thing to look at the moment is the release of new SERP features. So we covered about how Google allows people to classify their businesses as temporary closed, and those additional options with takeout and dine-in. But there's some features that aren't strictly related to local, but give a ability to extend your brand reach. So one of these is the home-based activities feature. So in the US currently, on your mobile, if you're searching for fitness activity related keywords, fitness related activity keywords at home, so whether that's home workouts, home yoga instructions, this now prompts a SERP feature which includes a list of videos that people can access easily. So the reason Google have done this is they've noticed the upwards trend in people searching for home-based activities such as fitness, especially whilst people were during lockdown restrictions. So this pretty much just makes it more, it's a way of engaging users to access this content. For local brands though, this is an opportunity to extend your reach beyond local search terms. So let's say you owned a local yoga studio. If you were to put out your videos out into the web and then mark it up with the data, the schema required to get in this feature, your reach has effectively gone from local to those broader terms, as we mentioned earlier, such as yoga instructional videos at home or workouts at home. And there's a couple of tools you can use to track traffic based on a query level for organic. So these are your Google My Business and Google Search Console profiles. So what this can do for you is it gives you the ability to gain insight on keywords people have used to find your business. One thing that I like to do with Search Console is to look for high impression, low click keywords. So what that says is your site is appearing for a lot of the time for these searches, but you're not getting any clicks. So maybe you can review that data and see how it matches against your profile on your website and see, okay, I'm getting a lot of visibility for this keyword, but I'm not necessarily optimized for it. So that can kind of inform how you can optimize that to get even higher visibility and higher amount of clicks from those queries. Google My Business also has one feature that can kind of almost be used to review your competitors. So if you were to stumble upon one of those local listings for a local business, you could you can see the popular times feature. So what this does is, using users' location data, when they've got location data enabled on their mobiles, they'll be able to track when and what times people are visiting businesses. So if you're finding that a competitive business of yours is receiving a lot more visits on one day in comparison to others, maybe even certain times than other points of the day, especially in comparison to your business, it kind of gives you a prompt to see, it gives you a good indication of like, what kind of times they might be running promotions. So you'll be able to pinpoint and review them more closely and say, okay, they're running certain promotions around this period, or certain classes, or whatever they offer. And then you can effectively use that and apply those learnings to your own strategy. And then one other important feature is the COVID specific updates. So based on the issues we mentioned about information optimization, I can imagine there was a lot of cases where people wouldn't trust the opening hours that are presented on a business. So in that garden center example earlier, let's say that place wasn't permanently closed and they just hadn't gotten around to updating their hours. People might have just ignored it anyway. So but then on the flip side, people that have correct information still might not get the same level of trust from users still, because they might have had bad experience with visiting other businesses before. So the COVID-19 post enables you to add a small post just below your listing. So it's a great way of enforcing any kind of location specific updates, restrictions, or whatever measures you've got in place, or even if it's just a reinforcement message to say, yep, we're still open, but here's our new hours you can see above. It just instills an extra bit of confidence to the customers. And then there's also the health and safety attributes. So with these, they state what you need to do as a user when attending this, when visiting this location. So whether you need an appointment, whether you need to be wearing a mask, and whether you will have to undergo a temperature check. So I think this is really important for a lot of businesses at the moment. To talk about one experience, I had been waiting about 3 months for a physio appointment. I've been checking the website daily, and then as soon as I saw an appointment available, I went straight ahead and booked, assuming that they would accept location visits. It wasn't, so I arrived at the location and they had stated that they were only taking video appointments, which was a bit frustrating, but they still managed to see me anyway, luckily. But what I discovered is, during the booking process, the day before my booking, they had sent the instructions saying it was a video only appointment. So I mean, extra kind of bits of information, such as, including appointment required on their local listings, would have probably prompted me, as I was looking for that location, that I would, what kind of measures would need to take it in place. Would they accept in-person views or just video only? And then finally, probably the most important thing you could do to your websites at the moment is to not delete your pages or your entire website if you plan on temporary closing again. So with at the start of lockdown, we noticed one local business that had unfortunately had to temporarily close all their locations. But then also they decided to close their e-commerce website as well, because they didn't have the logistics to carry on distributing their stock. So as a result, they decided to remove every page from their website in favor for a holding page explaining to users why they can't see their products. As a result, Google had removed all their rankings from search during this time. They were only ranking for a few kind of brand terms following this update. So you can imagine how long SEO takes to achieve results in SEO sometimes. For a business as large as this, and to have such a high visibility, it almost collapsed overnight due to this decision. They have since reopened, but they're only managing to achieve not even half of the visibility that they previously had. So you can imagine that's going to be a bit of a challenge for them to restore the same visibility they had. So Google does have best practices on how to pause your online businesses. Essentially, using the temporary close function on your local listings is one, and just deleting or disabling the checkout function of your website, and then just keeping all your product pages and categories live. this will essentially just prompt Google to return to these each time. It will continue to rank your site for these terms. And it won't just assume that your business is closed from removing your website. So definitely take that into consideration if you do plan on closing temporarily. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.